Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
Thank you again for joining me here at the back of the range. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 35. I am back in the United States, pretty much over the jet lag at this point, after getting in some great golf and rest and relaxation in one of my favorite cities in the world, St. Andrews, Scotland. Had a great time at places like North Berwick, Scots Craig, the New Course, Eden Course, the Castle Course, and then wrapped things up over at the Dukes. I took tons of pictures and videos while I was there and posted a lot of them on our Instagram page. So I hope you all were following along, but if you aren't yet, well, damn it, get it together. Follow us on Instagram at the Back of the Range Podcast. You know what else we do on Instagram? We give stuff away. Yes, free towels on Tuesdays. We have these great caddy towels with our logo on them, and we are just getting rid of them as fast as possible. So keep a lookout on Instagram, and you never know. You just might win some free stuff. Just my little thank you for your support of this podcast. When you tell people about the podcast, you can tell them that you can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. The central hub of the podcast, where you can learn about our podcast and listen to all of the previous episodes, head over to thebackoftherange.com. So on to this week's episode. While I was in St. Andrews in between pints of Bellhaven and a strict diet of fish and chips, I actually managed to record a couple of episodes. And there's no better time to release one of these episodes than right now, the first week back. So this week's guest is Sheena Willoughby. Some of you may not know her, some of you do. So let me give you a brief introduction. Sheena, along with her husband Jack, owned the Dunvegan Hotel in St. Andrews. While they just recently sold it, they are staying on as brand ambassadors. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ben, you've had PGA and LPGA Tour pros on this podcast, nationally ranked amateurs, collegiate coaches. You even let Joe Buck on the podcast. Sorry about that, Joe. Now you're having some lady that owned a bar on the podcast? Absolutely, because the Dunvegan is not just a bar, not just a hotel. It's the most famous bar in the most famous golf town in the world. You may have your favorite 19th hole, but this one is just a chip 9-iron from the old course. Everyone has been in this place to raise a pint. Presidents, major champions, celebrities, you name it, they've been there, and their picture is on the wall to prove it. Now, you know we like good stories here, and Sheena has tons of them from her nearly 25 years of experience running the Dunvegan with Jack. Not only stories from the good times, but also the amazing story of how they actually acquired the Dunvegan. This episode was recorded right inside the bar last week, so if you hear some background bar noise, well, yeah, that's background bar noise. It was an enlightening and entertaining behind-the-scenes look of how Sheena and Jack Willoughby turned a slightly run-down pub into the most famous watering hole in the world, devoted to the game of golf. So, Sheena, thanks for making the time to join us here at the Back of the Range.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, absolutely. So, my first trip to St. Andrews was in 2015. I came over to play the Eden tournament, quickly found myself in the Dunvegan just about every single night. It is clearly just a special place for golfers traveling here. The story of how you actually came to own the Dunvegan with your husband Jack is just as interesting as the place itself. So, can you give us just a little bit of history of your start in the industry of running a hotel, running a pub, running a bar? How did this happen?
Well, Jack and I, where do I start?
I know.
Jack and I worked in the oil field service industry up in Aberdeen, Scotland. He more or less followed his paycheck over here. And we were working for the same company, and we used to come down here on weekends to play golf. And we'd always hang out at the Dunvegan. And Jack actually had come down here prior to us. He was captain of the Aberdeen Petroleum Club up in Aberdeen.
Okay.
And he would come down here with all the guys, and, you know, he just developed a love of golf and a love of the Dunvegan way before I came on the scene. Anyway, once we got together and started coming down here, we would always hang out at the Dunvegan, and it was always such a great atmosphere. It had a great buzz. But back then, I mean, this is like 25, 26 years ago, it was a den of ill repute, really. It was like sticky linoleum on the floor, smoky. When I say dirty, I don't mean dirty as in filthy. I just mean it was just a dive.
It was a weathered bar.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. It was weathered. But it was always a fun place to hang out with the neatest people. And the caddies back then would all come in here after their rounds and come in with their golfers, and they would sit for hours and tell stories and drink pints and pints and pints of Guinness one after the other. So, like I say, we always warmed to the place, great atmosphere. And then eventually we would stay here too. And then we'd drive up to Aberdeen Monday morning thinking, golly, why did we stay in that hotel? It was a great fun place, but it was badly run down. The showers, you hardly got, it would blow hot and cold water. The tiles were like so thin you could see through them. You know, it was that kind of place.
Sure.
It was a dive.
Okay.
Anyway, moving on from that, the owner, we were sat at the bar one night having a few drinks, and the owner said he was looking to sell. And of course, Jack just pipes up, you know, we'll buy it. And I looked at him as if to say, are you nuts? We had good jobs up in Aberdeen.
Right.
And anyway, we spoke to him in the morning, and the rest's history, really. It was being in, I like to think of it as being in the right place at the right time, but,
Sure.
you know, the first 4 or 5 years in the hotel were really tough, and I kind of thought back to that day, and I was thinking it was the wrong place at the right time.
Well, and that's, you know, for anyone that has not been here, it is truly just an absolute, it's almost a museum, so to speak, because of just all the history on the walls. I mean, just pictures, and we're going to get into that a lot later. But, you know, one of my immediate thoughts is, how could a pub that is literally 150 yards to the 18th green at the old course ever have a problem succeeding? Like, how could it get run down? How could it not be always like this, that it was 20, you know, you bought it 24, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, what were some of the growing pains that you had when you first started?
Well, first of all, we have to thank Tiger Woods.
Okay.
Big time, because
Tiger's not here today.
No, he's not.
I really thought he was going to show up for this, but you know,
no, we really do have to thank Tiger, because when we bought the hotel, it was just as Tiger's career took off.
Sure.
And although it's the home of golf and the hotel, I'll correct you on this, it's 112 yards.
My apologies.
That's okay.
My apologies.
112 yards from the old course. I mean, golf just kind of took off, really, with the infusion of Tiger Woods on the scene.
Yeah.
And Jack to this day would say to you that he could not and cannot believe how a property this close to the most famous golf course in the world was affordable to, at that time, to, you know, the ordinary working man.
Right.
And like I say, it was the right place at the right time. The owner didn't look for any hassle selling. He was happy to sell to us. And, you know, like you said earlier, we were customers. We were good customers. We could drink a pint, but we certainly didn't know how to pour one.
Well,
so we came into this thing cold turkey, just thinking, oh my God, what have we done?
What have you gotten into?
But Jack kept saying, you got to roll the dice. You got to roll the dice. If we don't do this, we'll regret it all of our lives. And I'm thinking, do you think?
Because, well, you're coming from two really solid jobs, like you said.
Yeah.
So you had no experience running a hotel, no
Absolutely
experience running
none.
a bar.
None.
Have you ever worked in a bar or restaurant?
No, we did not. But when this was all on the go, Jack went and took a bar job in one of the busiest bars in Aberdeen, the Earl's Court Hotel, which was just a haven for oil field. And he'd get there on a Friday afternoon, because that was like Saturday night to the oil field people.
Sure, okay.
And there were so many purchase orders, handshakes in that bar on a Friday afternoon over a few pints. But he went and worked there. He'd work there on a Saturday night just to get a feel for pouring drinks, really. So, and then I took a job up in Newborough, up where Trump International is,
okay,
almost. And I went waitressing.
So you go from
I was working for free.
So you go from being like you're an executive assistant for, I think,
Yeah,
for the CEO
I work
of
for
this.
the vice president of the company.
Okay, so you're like an executive assistant, and now
Yes.
you're like cleaning bathrooms at the Dunvegan Hotel and running food orders
Yes.
and taking care of drunk people.
I had
in
a
your
mop and bucket. Yeah, it went downhill at the beginning. Well, that's just what you have to do.
Sure. So you get into this, and one of the other questions I have for you is, like, I know your location here is great, but there are plenty of pubs within a 2-minute walk from here.
Yes.
They're right here. Was it a conscious effort to turn this into something completely different and give it a golfer's haven? Like, what was your mindset from a business standpoint? Like, how did this become what the others just around the corner aren't?
Well, we had a business plan. We
Okay.
had a strategy.
Okay.
And our business plan that we put together to present to the bank, and we got kicked back a few times, to be honest, but we wanted to turn this place into a 19th hole for golfers, 112 yards from the old course. And we figured that with Jack's business mindset,
Right.
and my hands-on day-to-day operations mindset, with a lot of hard work and a lot of luck, that we could accomplish this and turn it into a 19th hole for golfers, where people could come in with their golf shoes on, with their golf caps on, and be in an environment where we would show golf on TV and go above and beyond in customer service and just have a fun atmosphere for golfers.
Yeah. This is one of the things that I've noticed here. I've been here 3 years in St. Andrews and spend so much time here. Is just the customer service is great, but it's in a way where they are completely in tune with the clientele. They give you the needle, they take it back, and it's just more of a family atmosphere, and it's more friends than anything. So when you were hiring people, you can't just have someone that knows how to pour a drink. They need to know how to take care of the customers that are coming in here.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, what was your hiring process like when you're trying to build this new face of the Dunvegan?
Well, we used to, we would really interview, 10 people to get the right one.
Sure.
Because we wanted personality. We wanted somebody that could, have at least some knowledge of golf and just kind of look like they were enjoying themselves.
Sure.
And I think in any walk in life, you get out what you put in. And we tried to make it a fun atmosphere, and a fun atmosphere to work in for our staff as well.
Sure. So you make the turn. You said the first 4 or 5 years were pretty challenging.
Well, yeah, they were, because what happened was, like I said earlier, the place was a dive, but it was a fun atmosphere. It was a dive, but the people that were in the bar when we took over, sadly, and we got a lot of flack for this, we had to kick them out to get people like yourselves to come in. I mean, we just had to. So we went from having a clientele that was kind of rough and heavy drinking crowd and swearing and fist fights and goodness knows what else,
sure,
to no clientele, because we had to kick them out. And we weren't very popular in the early days. And the worst thing that we did, actually, it was heartbreaking, was that we refurbished the hotel too early after we took over, because we were still suffering the backlash from the people that we'd kicked out,
right,
as customers.
Sure.
And it was not personal, but with this vision that we had for the hotel, there was no other way to do it.
Right.
And, that's one of the things that to this day we regret that we had to do, but we'd no choice.
You had to, in order to accomplish your goals of where you wanted this to be.
Exactly. So, the day after our first night, really, our opening night, the seats, because it was smoking in the bar back then.
Sure.
The seats were burnt, the carpets were burnt, and I looked at Jack the next day. I was in tears, and I said, you know what? This is not worth it. These people hate us. Jack was referred to as the Yank in town.
Right.
And there was a lot of, It was bad feeling in the early days.
Little pushback.
Exactly.
Because, Jack is, we haven't gotten into, obviously you're native of Scotland.
Yes, I am. Mm-hmm.
And Jack is a native of Texas.
Yes.
And so, you got this Texan running a pub right next to the old course. So, yeah, I could totally see how in the early days that was a little bit of a pushback. But, the first 4 or 5 years, you're getting things fixed up. Now, can you pinpoint maybe a time when things really started to take the turn for the better where, you're starting to really see?
Well, what we did was after we got to the stage that we had no customers, Jack and I would be practically, this is true, we'd be out on the doorstep as people were walking by because this place wasn't on the radar for, people that were here on golf trips through tour operators to come into.
Right.
The tour operators back then probably said, well, no, you don't want to go to that place.
Right.
So we're out on the front doorstep and, back then, Jack would be wearing a shirt and tie, for goodness sake. And, we try and, just
you're just
coach people,
you're just grabbing
them
off
the street. It was like we had fishing rods, and we'd get people in, and then we'd talk to them and tell them what our goals were, and then we'd say, look, we've refurbished, we've remodeled, and the one thing that we felt that what a golfer needs is a comfortable bed, a great shower, and great towels.
Yes.
So we had great big fluffy bath sheets. We had put in power showers. Back in the day, nobody else had them. I don't think even the Old Course Hotel had power showers back then. No disrespect to Mr. Kohler, of course.
Of course.
But we put in power showers and we had big beds, extra firm mattresses. And then we would start to show the customers what we'd done upstairs.
Sure. Okay.
But then we had a stumbling block as well because they'd go back to where they were staying and then they would be talking at breakfast in the morning saying, hey, we stopped in by the Dunvegan last night. Jack and Sheena are there, a real nice couple, whatever. And this is what they're doing. And then we had the stumbling block that these people then came back to us, the owners, saying, hey, you're trying to steal our customers.
And now you're getting those.
So now we're getting that flack. And,
Right.
and there was nothing further from the truth. We were just enthusiastic and wanting to get the word out about our business as
Absolutely. Well, you have
so
to do
we
that.
had a lot of challenges and stumbling blocks in the early days. But gradually, then we contacted the tour operators and they started come visit with us, and then they started to put their customers in here.
Okay.
And then once we got that flow of traffic, it began to grow and grow, and then steadily we began to get the clientele in that we had envisaged from day one.
Right.
And in fact, later this month, towards the end of August, and it's a shame that we're going to miss him, but our very first customer, his name was called Charlie Hinnett, and he's back here at the end of the month. And literally what happened was the phone rang, and it was the bank to say the money had been transferred. Then the current owner handed us the keys, and then literally we just had the keys in our hand. We're looking at each other thinking, well, we've done it now. And this guy walks in and asks for a cheese toastie. And it was Charlie. So,
wow.
Yeah, 25 years ago now.
So you still remember and still know your very first
Absolutely.
customer. That's impressive for a business to have. That's crazy. So one of the things about the Dunvegan here, you have your menu is you get the standard fare that you can get just about anywhere else. You can get fish and chips all over town, and you can get ale pie and a lot of the staples when people come here. Mm-hmm. But your menu also has a lot of American flavor.
Yeah.
And how did that come to be? When you're married to a Texan, I can't imagine there's going to be a shock. There's going to be some steak and burgers rolling around in here.
The last thing that we wanted to do was Americanize the place.
Okay.
But at the same time, we have to recognize that in St. Andrews, the golfing clientele predominantly May through August are Americans.
Of course.
I would say late March, April, early May, we still get a lot of Scandinavian customers because it's still cold and they can't golf. Mm-hmm. Europeans, predominantly Scandinavians though. And then we get to May after the spring medal, the spring for the RNA.
Right.
The spring meeting, I should say. And after they're done, that's the floodgates open for all these Americans coming in. So we wanted to give them a flavor of what they're used to back home without Americanizing the place.
Right.
So that's what we did. That's why we introduced nachos onto the menu,
Right.
and recognize that we're a golf place. We're not our customers are hungry. They've played golf. So they want to come in, they want to have a steak sandwich, a chicken sandwich, they want to have a BLT, fish and chips, steak pie. They don't want dainty food that they're going to be hungry an hour later.
Comfort food, yeah.
I call it man food.
Okay. Nice food. There you go.
They're man food.
Man food.
And then at night time, we put in a great char grill through in the kitchen, and we specialise in char grilled steaks. So we have a really nice dinner menu, and we have a signature steak, which again has a little Texas influence.
Of course.
8-ounce filet, jalapeno peppers, melted cheese salsa, and a mixed herb sauce. It's to die for.
All right, I know what I'm doing after we record this, so...
I'll give you a discount.
Oh, wow, how about that? I got to tell you something else about... Well, that's a different story. So one of the things that is so amazing about this place is that the pictures on the wall.
Yes.
Probably one of the most notable things about the Dunvegan when you walk into the pub after you get yourself a pint, you start looking around. If you don't look at the TVs, you're just looking at the walls. There are pictures all over the place. It's you with, and Jack as well, but mainly you with a lot of famous golfers, celebrities, people that come through. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me who is the first picture?
Well, our first photograph was Freddie Couples, Steve Elkington, Curtis Strange,
Tom Kite.
Yeah, Curtis Strange, Freddie Couples, Tom Kite, Steve Elkington. That was our very first picture. And how that came about was that their caddies would hang in here.
Okay.
And they'd get talking to Jack. And then they'd go back and say, hey, there's this Yank that's bought the hotel up around the corner from the old course. We need to go in there. So then they brought their golfers up. Right. And that was the very first photograph that we had. And of course, Tom Kite, he's a Texas boy.
There you go.
So Jack and he had this great conversation about Texas and Texas A&M football right off the bat. So there was a connection there with an American affiliation to the hotel with my little Scottish input too.
Right.
So that was our very first photograph.
So this tradition starts where you're just getting these pictures with all these players. So
Yes.
This is probably going to be one of the easiest interviews I'll have to do because I can just basically name a player, and you're going to probably have some sort of a story about them being here in the pub.
Pretty much.
Okay,
Not
so
always ones I can tell.
Well, we're gonna tell some good ones, not overly embarrassing ones. So let me see. Let me throw a name out at you. Let's go with Justin Leonard.
Well, Justin Leonard came in. Again, he knew that Jack was here, Texas boy himself. And he came in. I think originally the first time he came in, he was with Brad Faxon.
Yep.
And again, just the affiliation, Jack being here, they felt comfortable. It was a little taste of home for them.
Sure.
And the big thing back then was that we had ice. Everybody always, I know it's the weirdest thing, and it's just a small thing. Yeah. But, if somebody asked for a pint of water, I mean, we'd fill the glass up with ice and then top it up with water. And, I mean, that just seemed to work for us. Just what they're used to at home.
Right.
So they were comfortable coming in here.
So let's see. Who else? Henrik Stenson.
Henrik never really said much when he came in, to be honest. He was pretty low-key.
Okay.
There's not much of a story there with Henrik.
All right. Who okay, so let's talk about some guys that talk about some people that have come through that are a good story. Oh, Laura Davies. You got to give me a good Laura Davies
Laura
story.
Davies, that was unbelievable. I actually was invited to play in the Pro-Am at the Women's British Open in 2013 when Stacey Lewis won. And the Ladies Golf Union, they gave me a choice of playing with Yanni Singh, who was a customer here, and I knew Yanni, or playing with Laura Davis, but it was a non-brainer, really. Yeah, so I got to play with Laura, and it was unbelievable. She was super nice. We just had fun. I mean, I was petrified because when I saw her, she was kind of like thundering towards me, and I was like shaking in my shoes, thinking, "Oh my God, Laura Davis!"
She's,
she was as nice as could be, and we had fun. In fact, that was the first time she'd actually ever played the old course.
Okay.
She'd never played it before, which is hard to believe. And, of course, when you're playing links golf, you can putt 60 yards.
Oh, of course.
And I played the old course so many times at my level of golf. I know how to play links golf. So I would, rather than, take a wedge and fly the ball, I would putt and reduce damage, really.
Sure.
Damage limitation.
Of
That's
course.
my thinking.
Of course.
So eventually, when I was hitting these 60-yard putts and, getting them up to the hole, and eventually she put her hands on her hips and she turned around to me and she said, "You know what, Sheena, if I was to hit the ball and you were to putt, we would win this tournament."
Done. Done. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I thought that was kind of cool.
Absolutely.
But yeah. And of course, that year, Stacey Lewis was staying with us. We've been very fortunate. The first Women's British Open was held in 2007, and Lorena Ochoa was staying with us.
Sure.
And all her family, and we had the place decked out in Mexican colours and everything. And, of course, Lorena won.
Right.
So we were 1 for 1. And then Stacey stayed with us during the Women's British Open 2013,
Right.
and she won.
So you've had all these players that not only they come here and play the tournaments in St. Andrews or Carnoustie or surrounding areas, and they come in for a drink, but you've had a lot here stay.
Absolutely, yes.
So-
well, during the tournaments, to be honest, like during the Open, it's just too big and too busy, and
Right.
our bread and butter are the golf fans. So our place is busy, it's noisy. We have to get our deliveries at 4 o'clock in the morning because the streets there's no traffic allowed on them.
Right.
So it's not a place to house, professional golfers that need their sleep. They're trying to win the Open Championship.
Right.
So we've been fortunate that we've had a great customer relationship with Titleist, and every Open that Jack and I have been here, we've had Titleist stay. So we hope that continues. And in fact, the new owner, his brother is vice president of Titleist. So
I think
the connection
that'll-
continues.
I think that'll continue.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Plus, it's good for golf balls.
Of course, I bet you're not running out of Pro V1s anytime
I'm
soon.
not.
No. So let's see. Let's talk about some of the other famous golfers and celebrities that have come through. Let's talk about Clint Eastwood.
Oh, nice one.
Give me a good Clint Eastwood story.
Yeah, well, it was funny. He was up at Kings Barnes golfing, and we got a call to say that he would be coming down. They gave us a heads up. And of course, we were thinking,
Oh,
wow,
my
Clint
gosh.
Eastwood. So he came in, and oh my goodness, you're just like starstruck. As much as, the professional golfers coming in, you just think the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Of course.
The music.
Dirty
and-
Harry and
Exactly.
Sure.
So here's Clint Eastwood. He comes in with his family and sits down, and he had fish and chips. And funnily enough, last week, this couple was in the bar, and they were asking where his photograph was. And they were good friends of Clint Eastwood. And they mentioned that he'd called me Queen of Fish and Chips back then.
Yep.
So that came up in the conversation. So it's amazing, just like you say, this small bar, small hotel, so close to the golf course, just anybody who's anybody from whatever walk of life wants to come through here at some point, a bucket list destination.
Yeah.
And they're looking for a hangout. And believe me, there's lots of great places in St. Andrews to eat and drink.
Of course.
Unquestionably. I don't know, we've got a niche and a brand, the brand's strong. It seems to be getting stronger year by year, to the extent that we may have to knock some walls down, do something, I don't know, but maybe part of the charm is the size.
Well, you mentioned the size.
Mm-hmm.
I like coming here for lunch before going out for an afternoon round because
Mm-hmm.
it's nice and quiet. You can sit, you can have a couple of conversations. But at night, this pub gets pretty packed.
It does.
And you can't move too well. You get to know people pretty quick because you're standing pretty much right on top of them. And that's not even during the weekend when there's maybe a PGA Tour event or the Open or a European Tour. What is the craziest and the most crowded you've seen this place? I know there's over 25 years. There's probably many examples, but if I had to come here for the craziest Dunvegan experience,
Well, that would have to be during the Open. I mean,
Okay.
that's just nuts.
right?
It's actually too busy. But
Really?
there's
about
just
Ryder
people
Cup?
everywhere. Well, the Ryder Cup's a fun weekend to be here. This year, of course, it's in France, so it's going to have a different atmosphere because when it's held in the States, it's on TV late afternoon, nighttime, when people have come in from golf and then they're having a few beers and they're fired up and they're looking forward to watching it on TV.
Yep.
in France, it's going to be played. There's an hour difference.
Yeah.
So it's going to be pretty sedate during the day. People are not as, maybe not raucous, but it's a different atmosphere when it's on live during the day as opposed to nighttime. So we'll just have to record it and play it again at night
There
when
you
people
go.
come back in.
What?
But that's that is
yeah.
a great tournament. And of course we have, we love golf, and Jack being American, we've got the stars and stripes up. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we've got the European flags up too. So we're kind of pulling for both.
What was one of the professionals or celebrities that's come in over the years that was coming in because they were so excited to see you and Jack because they heard so much about the Dunvegan that it kind of surprised you that they were making a special trip to come see you, or it kind of shocked you?
They've just heard of the Dunvegan. They want to come in here, see the atmosphere. They've heard about the pictures on the wall. They want their picture on the wall too.
Sure.
But I mean, notable people like Neil Armstrong, first man on the moon. I mean, to meet people like that.
And you've met presidents.
Presidents, I know. I've met the current one.
You have or you haven't?
I haven't yet.
Okay, well, I don't know if I can help you with that. He does live right around the corner from me down in South Florida when he's not at the White House. But you've met President Clinton. I know you've met President Bush.
I have, yes.
You've met
Well,
actually
what happened there was
43. Actually,
yes.
both. Okay.
His security people were hanging out here at night time when they were off duty.
Okay.
And they told Jack and I that he was going to be outside the RNA in the morning real early. So we get out of bed like 5:30, get down to the RNA, and there must have been a couple of hundred people. You know the steps up to the RNA?
Absolutely.
Everybody was standing by the steps at the RNA. So Jack and I come down and we just go along the 18th green.
Sure.
So we're standing there, we're a two ball, hundreds of people further along. Well, here comes President Bush, and he comes out of Walden House where he was staying with his security. He gets onto the old course and comes up and makes a beeline for Jack and I. I was wearing Jack's Texas A&M sweatshirt.
Of course.
And of course, his library is in College Station.
Right.
So he came up and he said, "Whoa, an Aggie in St. Andrews." And I said, "No, sir, I'm not an Aggie, but Jack is. But we are Aggies. Would you mind having a photograph with me?" And he said, "Not at all." So we had the photograph taken.
That's amazing.
And he was very, very, I mean, that's 25 years ago. He was a handsome, handsome man.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And of course, we had the blessing of the security people too.
That doesn't hurt when the
Yes.
Secret Service says, sure, no problem. Let's see. Stories. Okay. I'm just going to rattle off names. Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods. Well, back then, when Tiger first came in here, he was with Mark O'Meara.
Right.
And again, just the connection with Jack, really. Mark brought Tiger in. That was a great night. He had dinner through in a restaurant. In fact, we did fajitas for him that night. He asked for fajitas. And Tiger was really nice, was happy to pose for photographs. And we actually went down to Muirfield and had a photograph, got him to sign one of the photographs down there, actually. But, yeah, Tiger's given us a plug a couple of times. I think he's got mixed up between the Rusacks and the Dunvegan, because he talked about coming up 18 in the Dunvegan, but I think he meant to say the Rusacks.
Nice.
But, yeah, and like I say, our business took off when Tiger,
Sure.
his career.
Well, and you know what's interesting is that, if I'm a professional golfer and I'm here in St. Andrews, I may not necessarily want to come to a place where there's going to be a ton of golfers.
Mm-hmm.
I may want to go find some restaurant that's a little bit quieter. Maybe I'm not going to have a lot of people, coming up to me.
I think that's the case, but secretly they want to come in and have their picture on the wall.
Nice. So how is the crowd here? How are your other customers when they're just here and they're just, all of a sudden someone pops in?
We're really fortunate. I mean, golfers predominantly are really nice, good people.
Right. Respectful.
They're respectful business people, people from all walks of life. But generally, a lot of the guys that come here, it's a bucket list destination. They're happy to be here. They're easy to look after. And if somebody famous does come in, there's a little bit of a stir, but it's not like it's 18-year-old kids going crazy over somebody.
Right.
So it's all manageable.
Sure.
For sure.
Can you think of, let's see, who notoriously would shut the bar down? That would be
Well, like I said, there's some tales I can't tell.
Yeah, no.
But you know as well as me now that golf has changed. Like, take a look at Brooks Koepka for a start.
Exactly.
I mean, he's spending a lot of time in the gym. I was going to say in the gym.
Just like
in the gym.
A lot of times in the gin. See, that's the
gym.
stories we want, Sheena. I want to know that Brooks Koepka drinks gin all day. That's what I want to know.
So I mean, you can tell.
Sure.
And golf's changed, and all these young guys are, they're fit, they leading healthy lifestyles. Well, when we took over, the golf pro just didn't quite have that image.
No.
It was different back then.
Yes.
So you'd get people like Ian Woosnam, Ernie Els, Nick Price, some of these guys coming in.
Uh-huh.
They're the ones that shut the bar down. Great fun. I mean, back then, Ernie, he wasn't married. He'd no responsibilities.
Sure.
And there was one Dunhill Cup where Ernie was playing and they were all having a drink in the bar. And then Ernie decided that he wanted to go and play the old course late at night. So he took a 6-iron. He got a 6-iron from Jack. And he and Jack went out on the old course. Of course, the security people came with their torches to say, what the heck's going on here? Oh, it's you, Ernie.
Yeah.
Oh, we're just playing the first hole. So they played the first hole of the old course, like at 2 o'clock in the morning, pitch dark, with a 6-iron. Kind of fun things used to happen back then.
That's great.
And the reason that we have our logo only a 9-iron from the old course was because some customers, regular customers, decided that they wanted to question our logo. So they got out there with a 9-iron and started hitting golf balls down to the first green of the old course over the rooftops. Wow. And I was in bed and I heard all this ruckus outside thinking, what the heck's going on out there? And this was Jack and all these guys hitting golf balls down the street. And there are things that happened back then that I couldn't imagine happening nowadays.
Just because
it's just different now.
Different time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's any worse or any, it's just different.
Just different.
Things change.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Let's see. What other names? Give me a good Jack Nicklaus story.
Well, he's never been in here, but his
You're
sons...
kidding
No,
me.
he's never been in here, but his sons have been in. But his lifelong friend, Arnold Palmer, Mr. Palmer, he's been so good to Jack and I over the years. In fact, he walked in unannounced one day, just out of the blue. This guy comes walking through the door. Here's Mr. Palmer. And what had happened was his lifelong caddy, Tip Anderson, had passed away, and Mr. Palmer couldn't get to the funeral. So he sent flowers. And on the card, he put, "Goodbye, old friend," OLE, "Goodbye, old friend," Arnold Palmer.
Right.
So we had a plaque. Tip had his own seat
Yep.
in the bar there around the corner. So we put a plaque up with Tip's name on it, and we put on it the sentiments that Mr. Palmer had written on his card, "Goodbye, old friend." So that was kind of special.
Yep.
Anyway, he came in and he wanted to toast Tip.
Yep.
So he bought himself a half pint. We said, no, we'll get that for you. But he insisted on paying because that was the kind of man he was.
Sure.
So he had a half pint and then said cheers to Tip. And then, amazingly, he went outside the front door and sat down on the bench.
You're kidding
on the
me.
patio outside the hotel. Well, you've got Arnold Palmer sitting outside on your patio and all these cars going up and down and we're all honking their horns and, it was just amazing. And he just sat there and then people would come up and again, there was a crowd gathered outside on the pavement and he would sign autographs and things. But our first open was 1995 and it was the Arnold Palmer course design people that took our place, not took our place over, but they camped out here.
Right.
And I don't know if you'll remember a guy who worked for Mr. Palmer called Ed C., who passed away. He was a taller life.
I remember Doc Giffen, his personal assistant.
Yes.
I remember Doc Giffen. I don't remember.
Well, people in the course design world, they'll know of Ed C.
Yep.
And it was funny. Mr. Palmer was hosting a cocktail party at the Old Course Hotel, and they were all staying in a house. Ed C., the Palmer people had rented a house on the other side of town, and they were supposed to be at this cocktail party at the Old Course Hotel. So they called here frantic. They couldn't get a taxi because they didn't plan ahead.
Sure.
And they couldn't be late, for Mr. Palmer. So I went and got my car, which back then was a little Ford Fiesta.
Uh-huh.
So it was like one of these adverts you see on TV about 10 people piling into this little car.
Uh-huh.
And I drove them down to the Old Course Hotel, and you had to get in line, and there was like Bentleys and all sorts of huge fancy Rolls Royces and everything pulling up at this reception. And here's us in our orange Fiesta, gets pulled up, and they all pile out of the car and you know, go to Mr. Palmer's reception. But
Sure.
it was just to be fun days.
Yeah.
We used to have a real laugh. And still do, but different days.
Yeah, of course. We're recording this right now in a pretty special room here at the Dunvegan. So this is kind of a room where I guess when you have guests that are arriving or leaving, they leave their clubs. But this room also is I guess it's the permanent display of one of the local artists, David Joy.
That's right.
And just looking around, and for listeners on the podcast, there'll be a lot of photos kind of set up in conjunction with the audio portion of this, so you can kind of see what I'm looking at. But David Joy, tell everyone what David Joy does, who he is. Gotta give a plug for David Joy.
Well, David Joy, what we say about David Joy is, hey, we knew you before you got famous. Yeah, but David Joy, local golf historian, artist, he is so talented. Just now he's recovering. He had a severe stroke, but he's making a remarkable recovery. And just lately he completed that picture over there of Francisco Molinari winning the Open at Carnoustie. But the pictures that are on the wall, the photographs, the illustrations that are done, David had this. It was an exhibition. It was held down at the Golf Museum. But in 1995, they needed more room to do a feature on Jack Nicklaus. So David brought the whole exhibition up here, and it's been here ever since. And he's just added to it as the years have gone by with the new Open champions. So that's kind of the theme throughout the bar. Below all the professional golfers in the bar that have come in, the walls feature photographs of the Open Championship, which then runs into here with all the Open champions going back to Tom Kidd, I think in 1860.
Yeah, there's Hagen and there's Peter Thompson. And,
yes, goes back to 1873.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like David Joy's room.
Yeah.
And we're real proud to host these illustrations here. And then, of course, our restaurant's called the Claret Jug, and in there, the photographs in there are of the Open champions with the actual Claret Jug.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and then the amazing thing also that David Joy does is he's an actor, and he impersonates old Tom Morris.
That's
so
right.
For people that have a little bit of history and knowledge, if you've seen a commercial, I believe it was a golf travel company that he did it for.
That's right.
So it was old Tom Morris, and I've actually was here one night when he came in full costume, and it's absolutely incredible.
It takes hours for him to put that makeup on and that beard.
Yeah.
And, I mean, when he walks through that door, I mean, he just captivates the whole... I mean, that bar could be jumping, and then suddenly he walks in, you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
And then he gets into the story of old Tom.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, a few weeks back, Jack and I went on a trip to the Outer Hebrides, and we went and played a golf course that Tom Morris built out there. He did the design for the golf course, and it's called Askernish. Mm-hmm. And an amazing golf course. It's like a Ballybunion, a Cruden Bay, a Trump International. Goodness, all in one course. It's not manicured, but oh my goodness, if that was a manicured, had a lot of money spent on it, I mean, that would be an unbelievable golf course, and it is in its own right. But Jack and I, it took us 5 ferries to get there, and we just kind of wondered, how in the heck back in the day did old Tom get this distance?
Of course.
Unbelievable. So he's quite, to think what Tom Morris accomplished back in his day, what he could do now if he was alive.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely. So you play a lot of golf around town.
Mm-hmm.
You're a 11 handicap?
9.
9? Man, I'm
hanging in there at 9.
Hanging in there at 9, single-digit handicap.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of Americans that come over here, it's a bucket list. They want to play the old course. But tell me about some of the other courses in the area that you play on a regular basis that people need to make sure they play and then come in for a pint
Well,
afterwards.
I mean, to be honest, Jack and I now are really... we're managing to play a lot of the courses out with St. Andrews because we now have the freedom and the time to do so.
Sure.
And he and I have been up to Castle Stewart, and we're members up at Dornoch at Struy course. We're looking for a membership up there. We went to the Outer Hebrides. We went to Machrihanish last year. So we're kind of catching up on a lot of people who've been doing golf trips for many years, because we've always felt that during the busy golf season, we needed to be here and wanted to be here with our customers. And our time off was in the winter time, which fell in line with college football for Jack.
Yeah,
so
we're going to get to Jack and his Texas A&M addiction pretty soon.
Best of both worlds. But in and around St. Andrews, we tend to play, you know, the old and new, the Jubilee, the Eden. We go up to Kingsbarns quite a bit. Absolutely love Kingsbarns. The people up there, the service, just the whole package up there is first class. Yeah. So friendly, and you catch Kingsbarns on, I mean, any golf course, but you catch Kingsbarns on a super day. Oh my goodness, it's unbelievable. Ladybank, Crail, Ely, they're all courses that I've been playing recently.
Good.
Love Crail, Balcomie, Craighead. I played in the Scottish Amateur at Ely earlier this year, and I love Ely. It's a great golf course. So, yeah, we're just kind of getting out and about ourselves now.
What's been your greatest playing accomplishment in your golfing career? And what did you do to celebrate? Was there a pub maybe that you went to have a...
Well, I've kind of won a few tournaments at club level golf. I mean, that's my golf. It's my hobby.
Right.
But I work hard at my golf, and I'm so fortunate that through the hotel, the people that I've got to meet, that I go on a trip every year with Mickey Walker, who has been Solheim Cup captain for several years for the European team. So I've got a great friendship with Mickey and go on a trip with her, which includes coaching and playing golf. And then I take lessons.
Well, I'm just thinking
I've won
about
quite a few things with my club golf, and I won the Northern Ladies Open at Carnoustie one year when I was playing off 12 and shot 72, and won the handicap section. And so I've got a few trophies.
I'm just thinking about, you have all these pros that come in here.
Yeah.
Have you ever just pulled one of them aside and said, I'm having trouble with my chipping. Do you have any advice you can help me out with? Or the bunker play is just not where it should be,
They come in here and one thing leads to another. And like 2 years ago, Nancy Lopez was here, and she does Nancy Lopez Golf Adventures, and she had a group over here staying up at the Fairmont Hotel.
Okay.
And they all come in, they were hanging in the bar, great fun. And Nancy and her fiancé at the time, Ed, they were playing the old course the next morning, and I said to myself, hey, Nancy Lopez is playing golf on the old course. I'll have to go and watch this. So I went out and took photographs, and a legend.
Sure.
Took lots of photographs, and I always remember on 16, and you'd think by this time her caddy would have known how she played. So they're standing on 16, and they're looking down the fairway, and Nancy's got her driver, and she's leaning on the driver like this. And the caddy's saying to her, right, you want to play it way left and, take the principal's nose out of play. And she's looking, and she's just right down the fairway, and she says, oh, you don't want me to just play a cut shot and take it around the bunker.
Right.
You'd think by 16 he'd know.
He would know.
So anyway, she gets up on the tee and just plays this cut shot right over the bunker, didn't even look at it,
Right.
And then she turned around at me and she just winked. It was hilarious. I've never forgotten that. And then we got to 17, and then she and her playing partners all went up on the Swilcan Bridge for a photograph. And then she went like this to me, and I got invited up onto the bridge, and we had a photograph taken. It's just on the door there, you'll see. So we just had a great connection. And to me, Nancy Lopez is like the Arnold Palmer of women's golf.
Absolutely.
She really is.
Absolutely.
Her love of golf and the game and people and love of life is extraordinary. So anyway, I was looking at her website, and subsequently she did a trip to Ireland earlier this year. And I thought, you know what? I need to do this. So I went on a golf trip with 35 Americans, 4 Canadians, and myself.
Okay.
Met them all at Shannon Airport for the most part. We stayed at the Killarney Park Hotel.
Right.
And once I got there, I knew half the people that were there.
Okay.
Because they'd all been in the bar.
They've all been in the Dunvegan, yeah.
It was just a great week. And we played Ballybunion, Waterville, Tralee, Killarney, and Old Head. And then, getting back to your question, what happened was myself and my 2 playing partners, we were on the driving range getting ready for our tea time, hitting a few balls, warming up. And then Nancy pulls up in a golf cart and she says, "Hey, I'm your 4th." Oh. Well, oh my goodness, it was so unexpected. There's no way I thought we'd be playing. So I got to play 9 holes with Nancy Lopez, and, it's just something that, you'll never forget.
Absolutely.
So that was really special.
That's
but I've just been so fortunate that, as I described, it was my birthday last week, and you just feel part of this huge golf family around the globe, especially with social media nowadays and Facebook and people posting things, and it's like these people are in your living room half the time, and you just feel part of this huge golfing family around the world. And I've managed to do that by Jack and I having this hotel.
Right.
It's opened so many doors, and now we find ourselves, having sold the hotel, that we're flying the flag for the Dunvegan. We're on our travels, and we meet customers when we're out and about. I
was just going to ask you, what is probably one of the strangest places that you've bumped into a customer?
Well,
most random, like unexpected.
Unexpected recently was kind of bars in Killarney, really. All these guys were in the bars and Titleist hats on, obviously golfers, and all you hear is Sheena, and I think, golly, who's that? And customers.
Yeah.
It's just a small world, the golf world.
Yeah.
And even when I was at Waterville, they've got a small driving range there, you're hit off mats. And I was there and got talking to this guy that was beside me. He was an American that comes to Waterville and plays every year. And then all I heard were, "Are you the Aggie's wife?"
Nice.
And these 2 guys were further over, and they're saying, "Oh, we're coming to stay with you in 2 years." So it's just amazing now that getting out of the 4 walls of the Dunvegan and Jack and I being able to travel and having more freedom, like I say, that we're meeting customers past and future, and we're flying the flag for the hotel. So as much as it was bittersweet to sell, and it was very emotional,
I can imagine.
You have to look at the next chapter in your life. But the great thing was that the new owners, Gil and Andrew, they recognised Jack and I's 46 years of experience between us, and they wanted to capitalise on that, and we agreed with them that we would stay on as ambassadors of the hotel, helping where we could, come in at night time, talk to customers. Jack likes to come up in the morning and at breakfast time and see the guys before they go off and play golf. And
no, it's amazing to see how this has taken shape. 25 years coming from really no experience in the hospitality industry to create arguably the most famous pub and most famous 19th hole in the world. So there's a couple random questions that we always ask to our guests, and I have to ask you because I know you're a huge golf fan. So Jack Nicklaus won the Masters in 1986 at the age of 46. Compare that to Tiger Woods if he would win another green jacket. Which victory would be the most substantial?
I would have to go with Tiger.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
In fact, the PGA this past weekend, Brooks has been in here a few times. You want the best player to win.
Sure.
But oh my goodness, the crowd, the support, and it's like hysteria. Even at Carnoustie when I was over there for the Open, and the crowd that Tiger pulls, unbelievable. Yeah. And the energy, and it's just great for golf. It's exciting. It's exciting when Tiger's playing.
Absolutely. Who would be your dream foursome? If you could pick 3 people that have been 3 of your I'll give you 4. Pick a foursome, and you could be their 5th. I know you can't play a 5 on the old course, but for this case, we'll play a 5 at the old course. So, pick 4 of your favorite customers from over the years. That I know is a tough one, but give me 4 that you wouldn't mind going to play around in the old course.
Oh my goodness!
For sheer fun and just an interesting round.
Well, I would have to say first and foremost, Mickey Walker. Solheim Cup captain,
yep.
And she's actually the junior Solheim Cup captain next year at Glen Eagles. I would have to say Stacey Lewis.
Okay.
Because Stacey's supported us the last several years, again, invited me up onto the bridge when she won the Open. Her mum and dad are great ambassadors for the hotel. The whole team, it's this affiliation with Americans that keep coming up, but they're the ones that really support us here. And after the Women's British Open, they always announced the Solheim Cup team, and Julie Inkster would come up here, and all the team would be in the back restaurant eating pizza and drinking beer, and she would have a rah-rah, you know. I was like a fly in the wall. I was thinking, golly, how lucky am I being a European?
Sure.
I'm a fly in the wall listening to Julie Inkster give this speech to her Solheim Cup team, saying, you know, they're going to come at us. These Europeans, they're strong, but we're going to be stronger. And I'm thinking, whoa, this is fabulous.
Getting kind of worked up,
I know. So I would have to say Julie Inkster. I'd love to play golf with Julie.
So
she's a legend.
Yeah.
And I would have to say, I can't get by Nancy Lopez. That would just be unbelievable. That would be some foursome. And Laura Davis. I could go on and on.
I know.
I could go on and on.
No, there's just so much history here. What do you think? I know this is a really impossible question, but you got to leave the Dunvegan and you can only take one picture with you. Which picture would it be?
Arnold Palmer.
Wow, that was an easy.
It would have to be.
I guess that was an easy
one. It would have
one.
to be.
Okay.
And I'd maybe have Clint under my arm.
You can take the picture of you and Jack from your wedding day on the Slocan. You can take that one
hey,
too.
That's maybe the one I should have said.
we'll edit this one. No, we'll leave this in. So this bar has a lot of history, obviously, and people will come here with fathers and sons and grandparents will spend time here, you know, being, just toasting each other. Give me maybe some unique aspects of this bar where, maybe someone's toasting someone that they lost and loved ones and how special, that aspect is to the Dunvegan.
Well, let me start by saying that when Jack and I took over the hotel, we knew the old course was special, but we really didn't know what we were getting into. And as the years went on and on, it really became clear to me how much the old course meant to people from all walks of life that wanted to come here as a bucket list destination to play golf. And I began to try and instill in our staff was that any given night in that bar, everybody has a story. There's people from all walks of life. You don't know what's going on in their lives. You have fathers, guys that come on golf trips with their buddies, and then they'll come back 2 years later. Something's happened to one of them. They'll bring the ashes over. They want to spread the ashes over some of the golf courses that they played. You have father and sons making the trips. You have sons that then come over here with their father's ashes. And then you have guys in the bar that planned a trip with their father and never got to do it. So they come over, have their father's ashes in their golf bag, and then they go and play all the golf courses that they had planned to play. And he feels he has his dad with him in the golf bag, and then puts this little box on top of the bar with a malt whiskey on top and toasts his dad. We have people that are recovering really now, this last couple of years from September 11th that have moved on. You have guys going through crazy divorce settlements when their buddies say, oh, come on, let's get away from this. We're going to St. Andrews to play golf. So, like I say, there's a lot of stories that there's things going on in the bar. And usually because it's guys on golf trips and they're away from home for a week and they're away from the pressures of family life and the pressures of working life, they're easy to look after. And if there's one guy that's a little bit, being a little bit of a jerk, there's usually a good reason that you find out by the end of the night what's going on with him.
Right.
And he may have 3 months to live.
Yeah.
Things like that become clear as the night goes on. But there's this family from Tallahassee that they brought the ashes over. Their dad passed away. Sleepy Dye, the Dye family. It's a big lawyer firm in Tallahassee. Okay. And the father passed away, Sleepy Dye, and they brought him over here and sprinkled his ashes. And Sleepy had always had a great time in the bar, that the sons all felt that they wanted to leave a part of their dad in the bar. So we've got Sleepy up there in a little, I don't know if this is legal or not, but anyway, we've got Sleepy up there in a sealed urn up beside the malt whiskies. And then subsequently, we had a group of guys that came over from Chicago, and one of their buddies passed away, and they did the same thing. They spread his ashes, and he always had a good time in the bar, so he's up there too. Wow. In a little sealed urn. His name was Mike. His photograph's actually on the wall. And then just latterly, there was a group here earlier this year, and they left their ashes as well of their friend that passed away. So that's what it means. It's like, it's hard to describe for me in words what golf and guys on buddy trips. It's a unique thing. You have to witness it.
Sure.
And as much as guys like hanging out with girls, vice versa, guys on buddy trips, there's this special bond with them all. You'll know what I'm talking about.
Of course.
And I see it all the time. And that's what it means to these guys to bring their buddy over here and bring ashes. So that's really special.
Yeah. All right. So I've been told I should do this. So since you're passing the torch to the new owners, but there is a new young staff here at the Dunvegan.
Yes.
So they're going to be the new face, so to speak, in the upcoming years of the Dunvegan. So when I come in the bar and I see a guy like Luke, tell me something about Luke that our listeners need to know when they come here to the Dunvegan.
Well, Luke's just a great guy. He's 28 years old now, and I'd like to think he's kind of sown his wild oats and he's settling down a bit now. But Luke's a great guy. Since Jack and I sold the hotel, we've kind of had a little, it's kind of been a little challenging with us being hands off, and
Sure.
the new owners, they're Canadians. But the people that know this business the best are our full-time staff who have been with us for several years.
Sure.
Luke on the bar, Mark on the bar, Linda at breakfast time, Natalie, who is kind of heads up all the wait team. So they've really stood up, and Gil has just been here, and they've stood up and said, you know what, we know this business, we know the brand, we've been trained by Jack and Sheena, and we want to continue with the values and the service level and everything that's been instilled by them in us. We can take the hotel forward and make it, they keep saying, make the Dunvegan great again, which I think is quite funny.
Nice.
But I know. In fact, at my birthday, they gave me this hat. It says "Make America Great" again. I thought it was brilliant. But they know what the Dunvegan is, what it needs to be going forward. The attention to detail, the customer service,
Yep.
ice, everything.
Ice. Yeah.
Pictures on the walls.
Yeah.
Don't start messing with the pictures. That's what
No.
people come to see. The collages, they're quirky. That's what the Dunvegan is.
Yeah.
So they get that. So, they've got Jack and I, hand on heart, we all feel, hey, good luck. We'll support you. We're with you. We'll be on the sidelines. It's going to be challenging, and there's going to be days when things break down and you have to deal with them, but they're up for the challenge, and we say, hey, good on you. We wish you well, and with the support of Gil and Andrew, they're going to come over from Canada more often. Jack and I'll be here all summer. I'm going to be here longer next year because I'm here for the Solheim Cup at Glen Eagles.
You're an assistant captain, I hear. Is that correct?
Not quite.
Oh, not quite. Okay.
But it's going to be hard to know who to support that week, to be honest.
That's right.
But yeah, it's going to be fun, and the atmosphere is great in here. The staff are happy, and there's a good buzz, and I've got a good feeling about the Dunvegan going forward.
Good. Well, that's a perfect way to wrap up the episode. Sheena, I really appreciate the time. We'll have to do this again next year. Get some more stories from you with your golf travels. And I think the Dunvegan's in really great hands. So I appreciate you joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. Thank you.
And there you have it. Another great episode here at the Back of the Range. Our first one recorded in Scotland. Thank you so much to Sheena Willoughby for taking the time to join us while we were visiting the Dunvegan Hotel. If you're in St. Andrews, you got to go check out the Dunvegan. That's all for this week. We'll see you next time here at the Back of the Range.